one thing standing in between you and him. Me.
Hey guys, Jirai here with another video. Today we'll be talking about Terminator Zero, and man guys, I'm so excited to talk about this particular anime, especially because, like a lot of you guys, I grew up watching the Terminator franchise, and let's be honest, at least when it comes to Terminator, I feel like it peaked right after right at Judgment Day, and that was it. Like everything that came after was like, I enjoyed it, but was it good? It depends on who you talk to. But me personally, I feel like it peaked at Judgment Day, and it just has not gotten better until guys, I'm telling you, until I watched Terminator Zero. And while there was a lot of mind fuckery, I thought it was fantastic. Anyways, let's get into it. First things first, guys, spoiler alert, right? I'm not going to go right off the bat with the spoilers, but spoiler alert, there's a lot of them in this particular video that I have planned to let you guys know about. So keep that in mind right here. Spoilers, spoiler territory, all that good stuff. Now, first thing, we got the visuals, baby, and I freaking love them, right? I thought it was, the entire series, it was a good blend of both 2D and 3D animation, right? And while I'm not always the biggest fan, I always prefer, it's like, oh, if you stay true to something, you're usually going to succeed at it. But, of course, the proper blend always works fairly well, if you do it right. It's all in how you execute. And I feel like the execution of, you know, the 2 and 3D blend was pretty good. There were some moments where it was kind of like, it's a little funky, right? Especially like how like the robots are moving around and doing stuff. But for the most part, it wasn't anything that like threw me off or just like, okay, that's just inherently weird. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever watched I'm kind of dating myself here. 2010 Warhammer 40,000 Ultramarines movie. That is not a pretty picture to watch, but that's like the low standard for me for CGI/3D animation as far as like major action. But anyways, this is beside the point. Now, as far as the rest of the series, chef's kiss, right? I especially enjoyed, and you know, the big reason people enjoy the Terminator movies is like, yo, it's this unstoppable thing, right? It's essentially the machine version of Jason Voorhees, right? You know, when he walks into a room, when the T-800 specifically walks into a room, he's going to just start mangling people brutally, horribly, and he's going to shrug off all the damage like, you know, a car would bugs on a windshield, right? But one of the things I loved as far as the character design, and it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's unique to anime, I always just feel like anime does it best, is the Terminator kind of has this unhinged look about him, right? Because the Terminator it's a machine, so it's not supposed to really have emotion, so it kind of has this death stare, which obviously in the past it was Arnold Schwarzenegger or like a couple other actors who were just like deadpan, but with this one they kind of changed it up and they made it feel like, oh dude, this thing is a monster. Like, it's looking like, anyway, but yeah, no, like the whole time it's like, it makes you feel uneasy, and I really enjoyed that, because like there's a couple scenes where Terminator's doing his thing, bro. He coming in and he's going to fuck your whole day up, and just looking at him, you know, I was like, yeah, this is about to be a bad day for everybody that isn't Skynet and T-800. But I loved it. I think that was one of the unique things this show being an anime format really brought to the table, is like a different level of fear and a visual sense, right? The fights, all that, like all the action scenes, crisp, proper. It's exactly what you would expect, right? Like, you know, oh, okay, there's not gonna be like heavy martial arts. There's not gonna be, you know, like, oh, activate domain expansion, blah, 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 blah. It's not gonna be like that, right? He's gonna go in, he's just gonna brutally beat everybody down until they're dead, and then he's gonna keep on walking, keep on rolling. Again, like cyborg, android, Terminator, Jason Voorhees. That's basically what it is. Now, the soundtrack. I really enjoyed this soundtrack. One of the things that I always talk about in videos is like how this, like, because again, the soundtrack is designed to make you feel a certain way. It's to elicit a certain response, right? The entire time I was watching Terminator Zero, all I felt was my heart beating, because I could hear it and I'm like, oh man, like it feels like the same feeling you get when you're playing a video game and you just walk into an empty room and all of a sudden you hear boss music and you see a massive health bar show up and you know shit's about to go down. The music elicits that response so well, especially in all the scenes where, you know, the T-800 or you know, the rest of the robots show up and you're like, all right, you kind of know, like I said, you know, someone's getting fucked up and it's not the robots. But again, I think they did a phenomenal job of conveying the idea that, like, yo, this is supposed to be a tense moment. This is like you should be able to cut the tension with a knife. That's the entire feeling it's supposed to give, and I think it did that perfectly. That being said, I also think in the moments where, like, especially at the end, where there's supposed to be these tender moments of hope and love and all that, it makes you feel like, oh, like maybe there is something to hope for, something to look out for beyond all this horror that's happening in the world, blah blah blah. And again, great job of eliciting that response of, like, despite all the terrible things that are happening, like, oh, you can feel this warmth and this hope that it might actually get better. It might not, but there's hope and there's a chance, right? Now, the big part, the big shebang, right? The story. There's so many twists and turns. I think, like, I counted like 4 different twists that elicit just all kinds of weird thoughts in my brain, right? So first things first, I want to preface this with, obviously, Terminator is predicated on time travel, right? The whole idea is go back in time, stop, you know, this thing from happening, and the future's better. Well, they actually kind of take a page out of, like, Avengers Endgame, and they basically say, like, hey, just because you go back in time doesn't mean shit changes for us. It means shit changes for you because you changed the past and you created, like, this alternate timeline, but the timeline that you came from is still there. We just don't see any of the change, right? I'm not gonna get into it because I feel like I'd need to grab a whiteboard and actually show you what I'm talking about. So again, you're probably gonna have to go watch the show, right? Go watch the show and you'll be able to at least figure out a little bit of that. But anyways, the main premise of the show, besides the time travel, obviously, is our main character is developing an AI called Kokoro, right? Malcolm Lee, he's the main character. He's developing Kokoro so that Kokoro could combat Skynet, right? So he brings it online, and then whoop-de-whoop, shocker, Kokoro's like, bro, first of all, I'm an AI, okay? I do what I want. That's how he designed it. That's kind of like the funny thing about it. He designed it to be a free-thinking AI. And Kokoro's first thing is like, yeah, man, that's cool, but now that I'm online, like, why should I? Right? Like, why should I save you guys? Like, is humanity worth saving? And that's the biggest question that gets asked through the entirety of the show. And Malcolm basically spends a majority of the series trying to convince and talk to Kokoro to let her know, it's like, hey, humanity is worth saving. Like, yes, I made you to combat Skynet, but, like, I want you to do it not just because, hey, I want to prevent Judgment Day, blah, blah, but it's like, I want you to see the good in humanity so that you want to do it yourself, basically. At least that's what I gathered from it. Now, if Malcolm and, you know, trying to convince Kokoro that humanity's worth saving, all that is the A plot, the B plot, thanks to a shout out to the wife, she told me, you know, what the proper terms are. I almost said side plot, but whatever. Is obviously there's a T-800 that was sent back, right? Standard Terminator stuff. T-800 gets sent back. Also, if they send back a T-800, the Alliance, the Rebellion, the Rebels, Resistance, they're gonna send back a soldier, and they send back Ico. Obviously, they have, you know, conflicting missions, right? T-800's there to kill Malcolm. She's there to save Malcolm, make sure everything goes off without a hitch. In the meantime, right, Mei Misaki, which is Malcolm's nanny, right, for his children, as well as all 3 children, are essentially caught in the crossfire because the T-800's like, I can't find Malcolm. So, what's the best way to get to Malcolm? Them motherfucking kids, bro. And he tries to get at the kids. Aiko's job is, yo, I gotta make sure these kids live. The T-800 don't get what he want, means I get what I want, means future saved, right? Those are the big plot points. I'm not gonna get into nitty-gritty details because then I'm gonna be here all day, right? Go watch the show. I promise, it's worth the time. There's a lot more that happens, but worth the time. Now, anyways, the big thing, right? Again, spoilers. There's about 4 twists, right? And I'm just going to rattle them off because I think it was wild. The first twist, Malcolm Lee is from the future. He went back in time so that he can prevent Judgment Day. Mei Misaki, the nanny who's protecting his children, was a robot that he made, right? Because his thing was, yo, you know, machines are trying to kill us. What if we taught machines to not, like, want to kill us? Like, why not? Not reprogram. He was just like, look, let's actually, like, teach these machines, like, yo, like, maybe humans aren't, like, murder material. I'm just saying. The third twist, right, is that Aiko, the soldier sent back in time by the Resistance, is Malcolm's grandma. Imagine that, right? We all thought it was weird when Kyle Reese was sent back in time to save Sarah Connor, and it turns out Kyle Reese is also John Connor's father. Well, you know what? Let's just send grandma back in time to save son, and then save the grandkids. Why not? We love a good twist here, and I thought it was fuck it, yo, let's go, let's do this. And then the last twist. So the Terminators basically kidnapped the oldest son, Kenta, at some point, like near the end, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna, like, destroy Kokoro, cause it turns out Kenta sent the T-800 back in time to destroy Kokoro, because in the future Kokoro basically creates, like, you know, the addition of Kokoro creates, like, a 3-way war between Skynet, humanity, and Kokoro. Bro, they were literally just, let's just take a big, not a big steamy dump, but, like, let's just throw in everything we can and just make the conflict as terrible as possible. Again, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. I'm not going to try and go into an ending and explain. Those are just the big twists that are, like, because these twists are essentially compounded upon one another in the span of, like, 2 or 3 episodes, and I'm just, like, left here like, I really like this show, but fuck, man, that is a lot of things to cover. That is so much. And I had to watch, like, a couple ending explains to make sure I'm like, okay, that is what I thought was happening. It really is. And God, it's confusing, but it's one of the few times where I'm like, I want to understand more, because I don't think it's bad. I actually think it's really good. I just want to understand it better. There's other times where I'm like, that's confusing, man. I don't even care. I don't even care. That whole thing, like, sounds like it didn't make sense. It is what it is, right? But here, again, maybe it's because I'm I wouldn't say the biggest Terminator fan, but again, grew up watching Arnie in Judgment Day, you know, mind blown, right? I'm very excited, though, to see what the future has to offer with Terminator Zero. I feel like there's so many avenues. There's things I didn't even talk about in this video that I'm excited to see, you know, more light shed upon. And I think it's a great time, because, like, recently, like, I was covering Alien Romulus, right? I feel like, you know, 2024 and 2023 at least have been good times to, like, revamp new life, or, like, you know, put new life into older franchises, right? Alien being one of them, Terminator obviously with Terminator Zero. I think I'm glad they're doing new things still, because, you know, everyone's talking about, oh, you know, there's not original thoughts. Well, you know what? Even with that, I'm glad they're still trying new things like Terminator Zero, like Alien Romulus, taking old stories and not so much making it brand new, but adding upon them in creative ways that make you interested, right? So that's all from me, guys. I'm gonna give it, I'm going to give it a solid 8.75. I really enjoyed this, right? I really did. It was just a little confusing. That's why I don't give it a 9 or a 9 or higher, right? So 8.75 T800s out of 10, right? I cannot recommend it enough. Go watch it. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. Jiraiya going out. Bye-bye.